It's the Revved Up Sports Show with Bobby Chaffee.
We do have this nice little format that we try to follow every week. We don't usually follow it.
And Rodney Rodriguez.
Entertain me. Tell me something. I need to know something other than what I'm seeing.
Y'all ready? All right, here we go. Here's Bobby and Rodney.
Hello, friends. A brand new week, a brand new Monday of hashtag Real Race Talk from Texas. It's funny, Bobby. Here we go again. Showtime Bobby Chaffee over there. Rodney Rodriguez. Great show. AJ Dancer. 7 o'clock. Talking to her. Good racer. And then Jacob Perkle coming up a little bit later on. We start the show off, and here we go again, Bobby. We're talking about people bitching about rough driving. And that's the thing I was posting yesterday. I'm like, do you people not see how we race nowadays? I don't get why it's such a big damn deal every time. I think it depends who does it.
I think so.
It's who does it.
It's who does it is part of it. But, I mean, it'd be different if you didn't end up saying, we knew it was coming. Like, everybody knew it was coming, from William Byron to Joey Logano. Everybody knew that was coming. Logano knew he was going to give it, and William Byron knew he was going to have to take it.
Yep. And the thing is, I mean, we and it's so weird to me because we applaud it. We applaud it at the weekend tracks. And then this stuff happens and it's like, okay, NASCAR needs to change. I mean, they need to make some changes. I mean, this is a big old mess. Come on, guys. I mean, this is what we do. I mean, unfortunately, this is what happens. And there have been so many drivers, and you guys feel free to check in with this. I mean, you've either been taken out or you have taken somebody out. And I will say, you and I were talking before the show, and I think part of the deal with Logano is people don't like this dude because he does this stuff and he has that stupid looking grin on his face. And I mean that in an affectionate way. But it's like, okay, I do this, and what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? I mean, I think that's
did something about it, but that's about the closest one you can come to it.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, but it happens week after week at track after track. This is not an isolated NASCAR incident. This is what we do.
It is. This is exactly what we do.
Yeah. And I mean, and it's not going away. I mean, it's not going away. I mean, it's going to continue and whatever. But I do want to say I had not realized until we started. I was actually doing some show stuff before we got fired up. I didn't realize that this weekend at Texana Raceway Park was dollar beer.
Dollar beer night. And
real dollar beer. I mean, it's not like where you go and you get a little bitty old cup.
Yeah, Dos Equis and Miller Lite dollar beer kind of beer.
It's like a real can. You get a can of beer, and that's pretty damn swift right there. And again, that is the booming empire owned by our man Owen Pittman. Great idea right there. I love that.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. Hopefully, we get a little bit of fan interaction when we do the dollar beer nights. Hopefully not too much of fan interaction down there, but it'll be all right. We'll have a good time down there.
Yep, gotta have a plan. It looked like a good weekend. Cotton Bowl Speedway, you and I were talking about. I mean, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what the purse payout is there or whatever it may be, but my goodness, man, they show getting a lot of cars.
Hey, they are getting a lot of cars down there, man. I don't know where all they're coming from. A few of them travel, but by far they definitely were getting a boatload of cars down there, and it's I don't want to say it's a surprise, but there seemed to be just a lot of really good sport mods. I was surprised at the number of sport mods, surprised at the number of big IMCA modifieds, big mods. Kind of surprised about that, but man, all the car counts and all the classes were doing pretty good. Fairly decent show, a little tame, I think, by the standards of SUS this year so far, but those sprint cars are designed to go faster on Cotton Bowl, and they did. I mean, it was a pretty good show. Good job by our buddy Milton Hope for calling the sprint car race. I think that might have been his first ever call of a sprint car race. So welcome,
my friend, to the dark side.
Yeah.
That's fun to call right there. And Austin Mundy wins that. But of all the ones, where folks talk about, oh, what's cool to call? I'm like, sprint cars. Sprint cars are really fun to call. I mean, because that's
live timing and scoring helps out a whole hell of a lot with sprint cars.
That's a real deal right there. I mean, because there are so many things that are happening really, really fast. And to me, I think that a lot of the credit, when it comes to the streaming stuff and all these live race events that go on. I mean, to the cameraman. I mean, to follow up with all this. I mean, because there's a lot going on, and they can only keep up a little bit with what the announcer's saying. But man, it's so much activity, and that's good stuff right there. I ain't got no problem with a good sprint car race.
Yeah, no, it's always fun to have a really good sprint car race, especially and you've seen it there at Hot up in Waco.
Mm-hmm.
The fans love the sprint cars. It doesn't matter where they come from, no matter what they're doing. The people come up and they love to show up with the sprint cars, and they do. I mean, it's a hell of a show.
Yeah, it always is. And I mean, that's one of the things. I mean, it just draws people. I mean, we talk about it on pavement when you bring the super late models, when they pop up and they come around. I mean, that's always a big deal. But yeah, when the sprint cars come to town, that's something that's going to bring the people out. And to me, that truly is, to me, and no offense to anybody, but to me, the sprint cars and those modifieds and the big mods, I mean, that's the big boy stuff right there. I mean, that's kind of the stuff where you get out there and you're going to see some really crazy stuff happening.
Yeah, you definitely get to see the, especially with the sprint cars when you got that drive shaft running right directly between your legs.
That's crazy.
How fast those things. Did you see the one video? I don't know if I sent it to you. I think our buddy Tommy Temple posted it where the wingless sprint car bounces off the wall, flips 4 or 5 times, and then gets T-boned by another car. It's crazy.
Well, there's not a lot of time to react when all that happens. And I mean, these guys are driving. I was always taught you have to drive beyond the hood, but I mean, when you're going at that rate of speed, I mean, it's so hard to see everything that could happen because there's so much movement that's going around out there, and it's definitely always a good show, But it looked like Cotton Bowl once again doing a really good job. Looked like a good show at Kennedale. Of course, when we talk to Perkle here in just a little bit, he and Willie G had a great race out there. We'll talk about that. Let's see. Oh my goodness, are you kidding me?
Apparently,
that's unbelievable.
Apparently, the dude was okay.
That is unbelievable. You had Rocket Raceway Park. 105 Speedway. I mean, you had the demo derby out there with Heart of Texas. Looked like a really good weekend, and we got a pretty damn busy weekend coming up. I mean, we can talk about that later on, but you've got obviously with Heart of Texas, Kennedale will be running 105. That's the regular shows. I-37. With the late models that are going to be back on the card as well. Texana Raceway Park with the Dwarf Car Racing Series of Texas at Dollar Beer. That's a lot happening on a busy weekend. And, of course, you've got the Gulf Coast Racing Series at Mobile with the pro late models and so forth, and the trucks and all of that. It's a good time to be a race fan. But, guys, you got to take care of yourself out there because it's hot as hell. I was sitting in my office earlier in Round Rock. It's 97 degrees, man, and it's dry, it's humid. It's going to be a long ass hot summer, way hot.
It's not. We were talking about that at work today, where you already know if it's this hot now in May, then that means it's going to be brutal come August, maybe even into July.
Big time.
It's going to be kind of brutal. So
yeah, there's not going to be a break for this whole thing, and it's so weird the way we've watched. We had snow and shit. Last year, whenever that was. Yeah, last year, you had all of that, but I mean now it's just we're back to the heat. I mean, we're back to the really, really very hot, dry heat around here, and it's going to be. You guys got to take care of yourself out there because it's going to be a lot. And I don't mean take care of yourself on race day. I mean, it starts a couple days ahead. I mean, if you're going to
hydrate properly,
that's right. If you're gonna dehydrate yourself on a Friday night, hydrate yourself on a Friday. That way, it kind of equals itself out a little bit right there, but it's going to be really hot. It's going to be a busy week, few weeks, couple of months of racing here around the state of Texas.
Yeah, definitely business is picking up. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago when we said racing season's here. Now it's in full swing. Got our friends at I-37 going to be racing. Obviously, Texana is going to be running. All different corners of the state. If you got a race car, there's going to be a place to race it here in the next 6 weeks or so.
That's right. Meanwhile, on the national scene, speaking of William Byron, he may have been on the short end of the stick at that Cup race yesterday, but he goes out and he kind of lays into Stephen Nasse just a little bit right there in Nashville, and he wins that race. I gotta so does it not make sense when it comes to William Byron going back, running for Donnie Wilson, doing these late model races? I think it's really improving his Sunday program because he's getting out there, he's wheeling these cars, and the proof is in the pudding because Byron's becoming a force to be reckoned with, and I love that he's short track racing, man. That's the Freddie Fryers and the Darrell Waltrips and all these guys that would come back and race at short tracks, and I love that, man. And Byron, man, what a job he's doing.
Well, I mean, I think part of it is he hooked up with a good team. That's the smartest thing that he's done here recently is picking up with a good team. But I think also, does it matter whether or not he's racing for Wilson, or would you like it better if he's racing for himself?
I think for him it's easier simply in the fact because I mean those guys are pressed for time. I mean, say what you want to say about these Cup guys. You can call them whatever you want to call them, but for them to be able to travel out and about and do stuff outside of their regular schedules, because the thing with a Cup driver is, I mean, they have a lot of other things to do than just show up and drive. So I think for him to settle in with that team definitely does not hurt. But I mean, if he wasn't his own operation, I mean, that's just something else that's going to distract him. I mean, Kyle Larson does his own thing, but I mean, he's not really doing his own thing. I mean, he's got people running that operation.
Yeah. Well, I don't think he runs for his own. I think that 57 car might have been his own car, but I don't think that number 6 car is his car. I think he runs for somebody else with that thing.
Mm-hmm. But I'm just glad to see, and I know, this is where I get. I'm so back and forth with all of this because when you get somebody like Byron that's going to go run pavement late models, super late models, folks are saying, well, he shouldn't be there. He's a Cup driver. He shouldn't be doing this. But yet, every time that Kyle Larson goes and shows up at some podunk racetrack and jumps out in a sprint car, is kicking everybody's ass and runs from the back all the way to the front, it's like, oh my God, it's amazing.
Dirt track messiah.
What's the difference? I mean, what's the difference?
Who does it?
Same shit, ain't it?
Yeah, who does it? I think that's the difference.
Well, it's just like what we were talking about when the show started. I mean, had the roles been reversed yesterday and Byron run over Logano, I don't think people would have been so pissed off. But I don't know. When Logano went over and ran dirt track racing, which he's done a lot of, and Matt Crafton does this, there's a lot of guys that go over and do this. Nobody's bitching about it. So it really is. It's all about who does it.
Yeah, I think so.
So I don't know. I don't know. Don't get me started. There's a lot. Hi, Sexy Joyce. Joyce Shepard checking in. We haven't seen her, or we haven't heard from her
in a hot minute.
In a couple of weeks. I mean, I know she travels around, does a bunch of stuff, and living the good life right there. So that's cool stuff. We do want to mention a big, hopefully all you mothers out there that check in or catch this on the replay later on, had a good day. I'm hoping that the guys, maybe the guys that were on the racetrack and guys that were in the pits and guys doing things on Saturday night took care of the ladies, whether it be your baby mama, whether it be your wife. If you happen to be fortunate enough or unfortunate enough to have a wife and girlfriend, hopefully you took care of both of them. Right?
Well, it depends on if the girlfriend has a. Depends on if the girlfriend is your baby mom or not.
That's right.
I mean, gotta have, and I mean, I guess your girlfriend could be a mom of somebody else.
That's true.
I mean, there is that.
That's true. But hopefully you took care of everybody that needed to be tooken, as a friend of mine once said, tooken care of. We celebrate the mothers and dads. Our day is coming. I think coming up in June, it's going to be Father's Day, so we'll get out there and race. And where else do we want to be at the racetrack?
Isn't it funny how everybody wants to take mom out for dinner on Mother's Day, but yet when it comes time to Father's Day, everybody wants to barbecue?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to take dad to no restaurant. Everybody wants dad to barbecue.
Yeah, what's up with that? I mean, I know a lot of times on Father's Day, I'm like, let me do it. Let me handle it. I got this. I got this, guys, because I don't want to go have caviar. Here we go again, caviar.
We just had that discussion on Saturday.
By the way, yesterday I had seafood. Guess what I had?
Caviar.
Catfish.
Well, yeah. 80-1. I can't believe neither one of us took that low-hanging fruit.
So here's what happened to me. So the oldest and I were working diligently to find a place to take the wife, the mom, whatever. And so we figure it out. It took us 3 days between us to figure out where we're going to take her. So we get it all planned out. Everybody's up early. We're off. We're going to do brunch. We got to do everything because we got to get back and watch Formula One and NASCAR. We, as in me. So we get all of this done. We haul ass. We go to the place in Round Rock. It's closed.
Oh, where'd you try to go?
It's a place called Greenhouse. Is a very good, real food. I mean, like homegrown food or whatever they call it.
Southern style homemade food
from the ground or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
One of those things. So and then so we asked.
Organic.
Organic. Yeah. So anyway, fortunately we lucked out because it was closed, and she said, "I want to go to Deckhounds in Round Rock, which is obviously a seafood place." Great bar, great everything. We had a good time. I enjoyed my Mother's Day at Deckhands.
That's good. And they probably had a sports bar up there too.
They did. I watched some baseball. I watched soccer. It was early in the day, so it was a good time.
That's fun.
It was a really good time.
I ate Yardbird with my mother-in-law. Had some Popeyes chicken, then I ended up barbecuing for my mom. So
nice.
So it's a good day when you have both the mother-in-law and the mother happy.
It is. Oh, yes, it is.
Yes, it is good.
It is. It's a very good day. We do want to give a big attaboy to our man, Phil Whipple. He had the wall-to-wall coverage for us over at Oxford Plains as we are on that road to the Oxford 250. Cole Butcher wins in that race. That 39 super late model. That's nice. Must be nice, right? That's a good problem to have. Cole Butcher made an engine change. Johnny Clark and then DJ Shaw. That was your top three. Great call out right there. Let me tell you something, Joyce. When you talk about Jared Maupin, and I did want to talk about this. I'm glad she mentioned this. That Jared Maupin is a bad son of a gun.
He could drive anything, can he?
Dude,
actually, let's not even say he can drive anything. He can win in anything.
That dude could drive a mule to a win. I mean, he'd have won the Kentucky Derby on a three-legged mule, I think. 80-1 odds. 80-1 odds. That guy, I mean, and I talked to Polero on the other show a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about Jared Maupin. And I want to tell you, when you talk about it, there are so many guys, when we talk about race drivers around the country, you know, when we talk about guys that get into Cup and get into ARCA and get into all these fantastic rides and doing all of this, and we talk about all of the great drivers around the country that aren't in those positions, Jared Maupin, I think, could whip anybody's ass. Jared Maupin and Caden Honeycutt.
Yeah, those two
are guys, and we're not slighting anybody. I mean, because like Memphis Virial's a guy that put him on either surface, and he's damn good. But those two guys, man, you give them the slightest opportunity, and they're going to seize, and they're going to win every damn time.
I mean, they got better qualities than Cody Ware. other than the last name on top of the door.
Yeah.
The last name on top of the last name on the front door is the same as the last name on the driver door.
That's right.
That's the one advantage they don't have.
That's right. And that's one of the reasons that I'm looking so forward to talking to AJ Dancer here in about 7 minutes. Because when you talk about guys, AJ Dancer, for one thing, I want to know how many cars he has.
He got a few.
He's got a few. I definitely want to hear your story with him. But, man, this is a dude that, and it's so with the evolution of dirt track racing. I mean, because it really is on that path with asphalt to where it's getting so expensive. And you see all the technology and everything. And that's something else that we can talk to Jacob Perkel about, because he's a shock expert. So we can talk shocks with him. But with all of this, and you still see guys like AJ Dancer that jump out and they're running home built cars, and it's out of the back wallet, and he's still kicking ass. And there's a lot of AJ Dancers, but when it comes to mind about guys that do it a lot and do it frequent and often, as a boss used to tell me, I want this done frequent and often. I'm like, isn't that the same thing? Hope he's not watching because I'm laughing at his ass.
Kinda.
Anyway, but AJ does it, and the hard way. But Jared Maupin, that is
frequent would be a little more than often.
Okay, well, I guess that meant a lot.
You can have relations frequently, but you can sometimes have relations often.
You can. That's a whole nother podcast.
That is a different podcast, isn't it? Right
live cast show. That. But anyway, that's like that time you and I went to Pensacola and we were stuck listening to that. Remember that sex advice show?
Yeah, with the old man that called in.
yeah. So Bobby and I are driving to Pensacola. I think I posted this. Maybe he did. So we're like going and we're listening to Sirius XM, and we turned it off channel 90, and it was like a sex advice show for men. And I don't know why in the hell we listened to it for like an hour and 50. The final ride from Mississippi to Pensacola, we listened to that.
We did. That was so funny.
How'd it go for you?
80-year-old man called in, said he was having issues with his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Wanted to make sure all the plumbing was right down there, talking to the doctor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were giving a lot of details on how your sex life should work. And it's like, that made for some fun listening.
It made us both chuckle.
to say the
That's
least.
for sure.
Yeah, and
Still makes us chuckle.
well, and then there was like people calling in giving advice. It's like, well, if you want to whatever, we'll try this.
I forgot what channel. I think that was on like the Doctor channel or something. I don't know. We just, when you drive that long for that straight of a flight, we just needed a different change of pace, and we just kind of thumbed around. It was a couple of channels up above Sirius XM 90 in the hundreds or something like that, right in there. So
No, it wasn't. That's all sports. It's all sports all the way up there. How'd you find that? You found it.
I think I just got lucky.
I think he listens to that show a lot.
Maybe I just have to get the right advice.
Oh, well, I'm going to turn it on. But anyway, so, but yes, great shot right there with Mop. And there is. I mean, there's a lot of good young talent, and we see them. I mean, we see them racing at tracks all around the country, and it matters not the genre, because that's one of the things that I was talking. I was getting messages yesterday from people talking about Formula One against NASCAR, and it was a lot of people that don't watch a lot of racing that said, hey, I stumbled across Formula One. It's not bad. I don't give a damn what you watch. Watch something.
Well, as long as you're watching some kind of motorsports. I can't wait for the ratings to be out. I would have loved for Fox to go head-to-head with ABC and put NASCAR head-to-head against Formula One. I would have loved to see how that worked out.
Yeah.
Because in theory, the Formula One rating should be really, really good because it was on network TV.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you one thing, and we can talk about this more on Saturday, is we don't get that kind of pre-race for Austin.
No.
It's a lot, right?
That was 2.5 hours worth.
It's a whole lot.
Or no, it was an hour and a half worth.
It was a whole bunch. But, lots of talk right there. But, I mean, that really is the thing, and that's where we do need to break the boundaries down. And it doesn't need to be about, and I heard them talking about this on Sirius XM. I mean, it doesn't need to be about dirt, asphalt, road racing, pavement racing. It doesn't need to be about any of that. It just needs to be, let's support our sport. I don't give a damn what you do. I know a lot of folks involved in motocross, and that's great. I equate motocross with everything that we do as well, because there are a lot of folks that really enjoy motocross and really enjoy short track stock car racing. There's a shitload of them, and that's what we need to be doing with all of this, because that's what it's all about. And from a local level, we need to support these racetracks, because they're working they're busting their humps here to have regular shows. And I've really been, the more that I look at it, I mean, there are so many racetracks around the state that are running every week. And that's a badge of honor right there.
Mm-hmm, it really is.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go to the Lone Star Speed Zone hotline, because we talk about great drivers all around the country, and we talk about the economics and everything, how this sport has changed. And there's so many people that have, tons and tons of money, and corporate and financial and regional sponsors and all of that, and do amazing things. And then there are guys like the Racers Racer, who is on the hotline right now, that just continues to show up, kick ass, and do it the right way. And it's a good friend of ours. It's the man. It's AJ Dancer. AJ, what's going on, buddy?
Not a whole lot. How y'all doing?
Doing well, sir. Doing well. So the burning question, the first question I have for you, and hopefully you can tell me this: how many damn race cars do you have sitting put away somewhere?
There was a time I had a lot of them, but I keep trying to get rid of them, and so there's getting a whole lot less. But now my son-in-law has started storing up a whole bunch out here, so we're still back there. I bet you there's 10 on the property, but
damn,
there's only, I think, 3 or 4 of them that are mine. I think he has more than me out here.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's awesome.
That's pretty crazy. So which one's your favorite? Is it the one that you race that week, or do you have one you like and keep it under wraps? Or, I mean, do you want to race them all? Which one's your favorite?
I usually, like I said, the one I run most of the time is the one. I don't know that I have a favorite of any of them. It's just, I guess you just have to pick one to be your main one for me, because I can't have, the best equipment on everything. I don't even have the best equipment on any of them, but I've got the best I've got on one,
Yeah.
and everything else goes on the other, so I just have the 2 that are complete right now, and either one of them, it's hard to keep them all the parts you want. So I just, most of the time I've had a secondary car that's just good enough to get by, and it's good if you just want to go play or have somebody else drive and stuff like that. And that's kind of where we're normally at. One car is usually pretty good, and the other one's, it's okay.
So AJ, over the years, and I mean, you've done this good bit. How have you watched it change? I mean, we talk about it all the time on this program about how, you know, we bitch about asphalt changing, but dirt track has evolved a lot too. And I mean, over the years, man, to see where it was to what it is now, man, it's like night and day.
It sort of is, but it's not. I mean,
Good.
We all want to say, like the original saying wanted to say, dirt track racing hadn't changed. It said it took everything you had then, it takes everything you have now.
Yeah.
It's no different,
Nice.
but you can still do with whatever you want. I mean, now obviously there's the knowledge is out there. If you want to know what to run, somebody will tell you. You know, you just got to pay enough money and somebody will tell you everything you need to know. But that's not the only way to do it. I mean, I'm pretty sure I spend less than anyone out there, you know, that run up front. And you can still do it that way. You're just going to have to work a whole lot harder.
Right.
And so I don't know. It has changed. I mean, I've never had a new car. I mean, I used to build all my cars, but then it started being a whole lot cheaper just to buy the wreck stuff and fix them. And so it's still the same thing. I've never had a new car, and even the car I'm running now, I'm sure is 12 or 13 years old.
Wow.
The Nova was the last new car I'll ever build. It was, it's a lot of work, and you spend so much time because second guessing everything because
Sure.
I'm not an engineer. I'm just going off of what I've seen, and it makes it a whole lot harder. So the amount of time I worked on it was, a lot more than just being able to write a check and get somebody that built everything and spent all the time figuring it out.
Yes, sir.
So, Jay, in your mind, is there too many classes now in dirt track racing? Everybody wants to change up a little bit, but 5-6 years ago, the factory stocks was an entry level class, and now you're looking at people spending $30,000 on race cars. So, in your mind, is there too many classes now, or is there just the right mix of everybody's got a budget that can fit into a race car?
I don't know. We raced 32 years, and there's always been this amount of classes. Now the difference now is there's no ladder.
Yeah.
Like the limited modifieds, in my opinion, are the worst thing to happen to racing. They screwed up the order, and so now there's no order in racing. Like it used to be, you could build a pure stock, you'd run it for a few years, and then you kind of change it up, and then you run it as a street stock, and then you'd run it a few years, and then you could, do a little bit more to it and run it as a super stock. There was a very linear order. You could use the same car, just keep working on and make it faster. Well, all that's gone with the limited modified, because the limited modified, like I remember the first time I saw one, they were the biggest piece of junk you could ever see run on a track. They were horrible. And I still think they're that way today, but they're just a weird class that have kind of screwed everything up. I can't fathom how anybody would want to run a class with a 7.5 rear end to start with.
Yeah.
But the fact that they put all that money in those cars with that horrible rear end is just blows my mind. I can't believe they won't go to something better. But because of that, it's just screwed up the order. So now, what do you start at? And
Right.
like you said, the factory stocks. I ran factory stocks, I guess, when Boyder was about the only one running them up in Architects, because they had that 5,000 win every year. So we built one, and back then it was an unlock rear end. And honestly, I think that's one of their biggest mistakes in that class is to let them run a locker end. When you ran the unlocker end, man, any motor was big enough. The racing was still amazing. Justin
Right.
Whitehead still won everything. It was a super good class with the unlocker end. They were fun to race, and they were just pretty neat. So then anybody with any amount of money, I think, could be competitive. And once they went to locker ends, and then, man, those tires have so much traction.
Yeah.
That it just makes you have to, I don't know, it's a weird deal, but on anything, when the rules are less, that means you're going to spend more, because when you have more adjustments, it's easier to, I guess I'd have to say, dial the car out than it is to dial it in. So it makes everybody competitive, because most of the time you've made an adjustment that made it slower.
Yeah.
But when you have less to adjust, like the factory stocks do, the only thing that to make you faster is spending a lot more money, and that's where their class is at. The only way to make it faster is to spend more than the next guy half the time. And I mean, you can still do it, I guess, affordably, but it's much harder than it used to be in that class.
Yeah, no doubt.
But if they went back to the unlocker end, I think they'd go away.
I agree. I mean, I think that was one of the biggest downfalls on the pavement side. You know, with what we called a street stock was when that happened, and then start doing the 9-inch and all this other stuff, opening stuff up. But I mean, how much of that comes back to the racetrack, to the promoter, to the tech guy that really needs to like put up a red flag and say, hold on. I know it's tough because there's a lot of pressure from guys saying, well, I want to do this, but it kind of does ultimately fall back on somebody to put the damn handbrake on here, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. You never go back. I guess just the way it is, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You have to kind of keep looking forward. It's just, there's no perfect answer in anything. I don't, to me, it's just like how I got into street stocks this year. It's just a quick change deal. I know they're trying to save us money with the 9-inch, but when I have 10 different sets of gears that all cost me $700 a piece,
exactly.
Now I got $7,000 just in gears. When I went to the quick change, I got 10 different sets I ended up spending $300 for 10 sets.
Damn.
And I mean, it's just like, and really, the money is a big deal for me, obviously, but
sure.
The biggest thing is it's so much easier to work on. Everything's replaceable, and I don't understand why they're so against allowing, because we're not spending any more money; it's spending less, and it's the same thing with the 7.5. Wow, I mean, what do those frames cost? $1,500 for a 7.5?
Yeah,
it's like, man, you could have bought almost 2 quick 9-inches for that.
Yep.
And it's the same deal for that amount. You could buy a quick change. Why wouldn't they allow them? I don't know who they think they're saving. And the other thing with factory stocks and limited modified, those transmissions weren't designed to run in second gear.
That's right.
So they destroy themselves all the time. I don't see why they, I know it's a little bit more money to start with, but unless this is the last year you're racing, it's going to save you a lot of money. But people are super opposed to it. I don't understand why. When, the Brens are, to me, Bert's Brens, Falcons, they're cheap and they last forever just about.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a weird deal, but we're all our own worst enemy. Amen. On that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yep, that's for damn sure.
Yeah, it's almost like racers always want to race a class, like get their current class to the other class that they don't want to get to. Like the guys with the street stocks want a super stock, and the guys with the limited modified wanted, they wanted the aspect of a big mod, but didn't want to spend the money to jump the complete class. We see it all over the place.
Right.
But what's your take on, we say entry level, some promoters say, a cost effective level to get into it? Is it to get this next generation involved? Is it this go-kart track? Is it a junior modified? Is it an E-mod? Is it a pure stock? What's going to get this next core group of racers to come in? You've been in this a long time. Where do they step in?
Man, I think that's a tough one. I have 4 kids, and trying to even get them interested to work on it enough is much harder than you can believe. So I don't know what is the step to it. The junior mod, that's a weird class to me. I don't know why they didn't do just junior factory stocks. That seems a whole lot safer.
Right?
Those limited modifieds with the open wheel, man, that makes me nervous. I wouldn't want to put my kid in it. But I understand there's cheap cars out there, but I just thought the factory stock seemed like a more obvious play for them. But I don't know. They get them in there. That's a tough deal. There's no good answer. I mean, I do like what I guess is you're starting to see now, that cop stock class.
Yeah,
I do think that's a pretty interesting class because it's almost like, they all have to be pretty much the same car. I thought that was pretty interesting, and it seemed like it would be something affordable. But as far as nothing's affordable, but that class seemed kind of interesting. But of course, getting everybody to build one, that's tough because nobody builds their own stuff; they just buy them now. So
sure,
you're in a hard spot on that one. The cop stocks seem neat, but until B&B or somebody starts building them, nobody's buying them. Because I don't know if people know how to even weld anymore half the time in our classes. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's a great point. I mean, isn't that something to me that's really missing? I mean, I know down, Corpus and all that they've got more of a pure stock or whatever, but man, we really are missing kind of a, something like that. I mean, on pavement we had the grand stock, but hell, then that was supposed to be $1,000 car, but hell, then they started costing $4,500. But man, really missing a good bomber class, man. A good bomber class, I think, would be something to get people into this.
Well, we went to a racetrack in Kansas, I think, and just initially when I sat down, I thought this is the dumbest place I've ever been to. They had 3 classes of modifieds, 3 classes, and they were like, I don't remember what their names. It was like sportsman, and then beginner, and then pro or something. It was 3 classes, and I was like, what is this? This is gonna be horrible.
Yeah.
But it turned out to be one of the most interesting races. All 3 classes in the beginners or the sports. I don't remember. One of them, half of them were 3 links, some were 4 links. And it was just people, like, they could pick whichever class they could afford, and they ran in that class. And it was all the same cars, but they were all 3 very, competitive and very interesting class. And the beginner class was just, you could tell they were all beginners. So it was pretty interesting. And I really thought it was a good idea. And I honestly think we could do the same thing. I've seen I-37 sort of do it, that the beginner factory stocks.
Yeah.
I mean, really, I hate to say it, but those tires got to go. I mean, if they were running like either the G60 or those Southwest Speed tires.
Yeah.
Just put a tire that actually fit inside the body so they wouldn't be jumping each other. Because that's a big problem, I think, because those tires they're out there to where as soon as you get near somebody, it pulls you into them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if they could do, like a beginner class just with them, I mean, it can happen. The cars are out there, and so I think that would be the only realistic way of doing it, is having a beginner style, factory stock class, and then I wouldn't say pro, but whatever everything else, because that is the problem that with having people that have been in factory stocks for 20 years and people spending $30,000 on it. So it's something you can't go away because at the same time, Boyder, and he didn't really start he just adopted the rules, but he started those big money shows.
Yeah.
And even when we ran it, I don't know what this was. I can't remember the year, but it's probably 18 years ago when we ran factory stocks up there. We drove up to Arklatex to go run that show. And even then, I think we were like the 4th or 5th time they'd done it. And even then, there was 80, 90 cars, it seemed like, and some of them were just total junk, and others were the nicest thing you could ever see. They're coming out of stacker trailers, even then. So they were already, because of the big money shows, big guys were building them. So it is an interesting deal. They do put on a good show, and, they have a place for it. You can run everywhere in Texas and, on that area in the same rules. So I do think it's not a bad deal, but I don't think it would. I know it's adding another class, but, the beginner factory stocks is something that would make more sense to give people a place to start, because this isn't an easy sport to start in. And
that's for sure.
Especially if you got to spend that much money to even stay on the lead lap.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in terms of the state of dirt track racing today, is it as healthy as it's been? Does it need a little bit of a shot of adrenaline? Is it on life support? I mean, compared to the last, we'll say, since you've been around for a hot minute, let's say the last 15 years.
He said you're old, AJ.
Not exactly.
Yeah.
Not exactly. I tried to be politically correct about it, but you've been involved for a hot minute.
Well, when I started racing, I started when I was 15. And when I started racing, you had to run a B main every single night, or I had to run a B main to make it in the show. I mean, every single night, and that was pretty much every class was full. But I don't know. And then I can't even remember. Maybe 10 or 15 years after that, there was a time that anywhere I ran in the entire state, it was 5-car fields. So, I wouldn't say thanks to the pandemic, but I think the pandemic almost brought it back because there was nothing else to do. So people got back into racing, and this is the biggest car counts everywhere I run that I've seen in a long time. So, I mean, oddly enough, I would say it's in better shape than I've ever seen it. But now with prices, going crazy, I don't know how that's going to affect it. But at this current time, the car counts are as good as I've seen them, since we talked about, maybe 30 years ago.
For sure.
Yeah.
So talk about you. I mean, I think one of the things that's so cool about you guys is obviously you race around here, but man, you like you mentioned about Kansas. I mean, you guys, I mean, you load up and man, you just travel. And I mean, you were telling me at Coda, I mean, how you guys are doing that. I mean, to go afford yourself to race in other places. And I just think it's so cool that I see you all around the country and you're like just a regular dude. I mean, you're not these guys that we're talking about that are unloading off of these massive haulers with all of these whatevers, man. I think you are a hero to so many people just for what your team is and the way that you expand yourself and go race around the country.
Well, a lot of that started out of necessity, I guess. I started racing when I was 15, and after I finished my degree, I got hired up here in Austin, just to come up here to a job.
Mm-hmm.
And, this was before the internet, really. And so I just assumed there was a dirt track here. I never even considered checking. So I accepted the job. We moved up here, and then I realized there was no place to race. I had no idea, because it didn't have Cotton Bowl. There was nothing. The closest track was 3 hours away. So we started driving 3 hours to go race. And so because of that, that's pretty much what we've always done. You'd run a place until you just got tired of the politics, and you find another track 3 hours away and go run there. And so that's what we did. We just kind of made our way around the whole state, and then it just started moving. Now you start kind of get curious, and we're getting older and we got a little bit more money. So we started going further, and then we started realizing that, it's different everywhere, but it's still the same. Obviously it's still dirt track racing, but it's so interesting to see the history. Like Waco, I had no idea there was stuff like that. When we started racing, my dad ran for 1 year, and then I started racing. I built my own car, and I've kind of pretty much raced on my own ever since then. But there was no dynasty. I had never seen a grandfather that race that passed it down to a father, and now their kids racing, and then their grandkids are racing.
Yeah.
And it's like I'd never seen anything like that. So to me, I didn't know there was that kind of history, and that's just here locally. And then when we start moving, going out even further, it's crazy to see. Like, I hate to say it, but like Cotton Bowl, stuff like that. Like, it's that here when they decide to build the track, they just go in there and build it. They don't pay attention to nothing. They don't pay attention to which way the wind blows. They don't pay attention where the sun sets. But when we start moving up to, Iowa and, Nebraska and all those tracks are perfect. The sun sets in the right angle. The wind blows the dust away from the fan. Everything is like, they're all built in the 40s and 50s, and they thought about everything. And it's just almost like culture shock, because everything is like so well thought of. And it's different from here. And I mean, I guess that's just the way it is now.
No, for sure.
But I didn't even know that was, the way things were. And it's just, so after we started doing that more and more, then it became, it's just like, that was our vacation. We just find some place we'd never been to and try to go there. And, that's how, like, we're supposed to go to Alaska this year, but hopefully the gas price and other stuff don't keep going crazy. And we just want to go to see something totally different now. Now, when I look this up online, it looks like racing from the 50s. I mean, they look like they're in somebody's backyard. It looks weird, but it looks like it would be something fun to see and try. And, it does look a little backwards, but it looks like it would be fun, Yeah,
man, absolutely. That's awesome.
Wait, you said Alaska, like as in the great northern
He told me that at Coda.
Yeah.
He said that they were looking to go to Alaska. I'm like, what? I was like wiping my ear. I'm like, seriously?
Might pass some good dirt tracks in Canada too.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, no, we raced in Canada a few years ago on the Dakota Mod Tour. When we went up there, we ran North Dakota and then Canada, and last year we ran Wisconsin and several states. I think we ran Canada. So we've been traveling further and further to go race just to see stuff you've never seen, and that's kind of how we sort of end up in Canada, or, we want Canada. We want to go to Alaska because it's just, I mean, I don't know how much longer, I've been saying the sport's dying for years, but like I said, then it starts getting better.
Yeah.
So I have no idea anymore, but I figure, well, I'm still young enough and still able. And since all the kids finally moved out, we can do whatever we want. So we just try to decide to do the hardest things possible just to see them now. And then maybe later on, just stick local if we have to, but it's just been, I don't know. I'm getting older, and I wouldn't say less competitive, but I worry less about how I do, as more about how much fun I have doing it.
Yeah, that's right.
So
main thing is all you guys and ladies that are listening to this and watching this and don't want to travel around the state of Texas, this dude right here. So AJ, I do want to ask you. Back in 2013, you ran the Asphalt Race. I mean, I was like, we had one super stock, and I'm just reaching out to people. I'm like, please come race. I just need people to show up. I don't care. Rules, run what you brung, whatever. You show up and you're a dirt track guy, but dude, you put on a show that night on the asphalt, man. What do you remember about that, dude? You were kicking their asses that night. That was cool to watch. And the funny thing is, somebody comes on the radio, the tech man comes on the radio to me during that race when you're winning that and kicking everybody's ass, and they're like, it's on your ass if he's illegal. I'm like, I said, run what you brung.
Yeah, it was a pretty interesting night. I'd never done asphalt, and I've always been a little curious. But as the small dollar racer, every time I've gone, all I can see is those guys bringing in, like flying in crew chiefs, all that stuff, and I'm like, man, there's no way I could ever keep up with this. And so when you open up the rules to allow, Cotton Bowl's rules, to allow us to go run, I figured, it wouldn't cost me nothing. I just tried. I mean, I changed up everything, and really, I killed myself on that because I'm with you. I think we were going to win that race.
You were, yeah.
But my car's built for dirt, so everything's built up high. So I built a car, for dirt, and so when I tried to convert over asphalt, I did everything I thought I should do from reading and guessing, and I talked to some people, and so the one thing that I couldn't do is move my fuel cell. I mean, I could, I guess, but that's a whole lot of work.
That's a lot.
So my solution was to just run it really low on fuel, so the fuel will be low. And I lowered all my weight, and it worked. The car was super fast. Well, my daughter was running, and apparently she couldn't watch her oil pressure gauge, so she's running it, and the oil pressure is just dropping, so she keeps going until it blows up. And so her car blows up, and we have a red flag because she coated the track with oil.
Yep.
So I'm sitting on the front straightaway, and I didn't even notice that the front straightaway is banked a lot.
That's right.
And so, the pickup's on the right side. And so while I'm sitting there and all this banking, the fuel went away from the pickup, and there's only a few laps left, and it dies, And I knew right away, you could hear it run out of gas. And I'm like, I ran it low on purpose, and I was like, man, I just went too far. So they push me off, and I tell them, put some fuel in it, because I can still come back out there and at least do something.
Yeah.
And but now we're on level ground. So when they check it, it's got like 5 inches in it.
Yeah.
And they're like, you got fuel. So I was like, oh, it's just a fuel pump. It didn't dawn on me until we went and watched the next race, and I saw how banked the front straightaway, because I'm sitting on the front straightaway in that red, and I just ran it out of fuel. So if they'd have just pushed me off for a second, it'd have fired back up. And, we could finish. But then I was worried the same thing. I was like, man, they're going to complain about everything on my car when we get to tech, because we were totally different from you guys. But so it probably worked out for the best. But it was a lot of fun, and it let me know that, asphalt racing was way more enjoyable than I expected it to be. Yeah. But it was still not my thing,
It really was, AJ. It was halfway through that race. Yeah. And the tech guy comes on and he said, it's your ass if that car wins. I'm like, oh, shit.
Funny.
He's like, you're having to pay part of the purse. But anyway, I digress. But no, you did. Yeah. You did have him covered. That was a lot of fun to watch. Sorry, Bobby. I had to bring that up. That was a fun time.
So AJ, you may not remember this. I sold you one of my old piece of junk cars years and years ago. It was sitting in my parents' side of my parents' yard. My dad kept getting on to me about trying to get rid of it, and I finally just said, I'm going to sell it. And I think I sold it to you for like $50, $100, something like that. I just said, here, come get it. Yeah. And it was just an old big body Monte Carlo on a frame. It was just I took all the fenders off because they were beat up. I was going to try to redo it, and it just sat there. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to get rid of it. I think it was like I think I sold it for like $100. I was like, here, just come get it. Yeah.
That's kind of how I've done it over the years. I just wait till somebody getting rid of junk, and then I'll buy it, and I'll use all the good parts, and it's worked out good over the years. We've come across a bunch of turds, but you put them all together, they make a decent car.
That's right. That's right. That's what it's all about. AJ, I do want to ask you about Saturday. Talk about Cotton Bowl. I watched your video. Wrong call on the orange car. That's got to be kind of frustrating when that happens. Like, come on, man. But that's a hard job. I mean, race control is tough, but wish that would have gone the other way.
No, I mean the call was fine. The only thing that is, I guess, my fault. I guess on that deal is No, they didn't call that wreck on me. That was
Okay, good.
one of the other drivers were complaining about that.
Oh,
And,
okay.
the only thing I did wrong is I don't know. I guess after the caution came out, 3 or 4 cars passed me, and I just assumed they were going to line us back up. But so I'm just waiting, and then they're like, "All right, we're going this time." Well, I'm still behind those 3 cars, you know. It's
Yeah.
So I kind of fault myself for not just getting back where I should have been, because I know they got stuff to do. But now, as for calls on the racetrack, man, they don't hardly make calls anymore. And, I know people complain about that, but I don't mind getting a bad call. That means they're making the call. I like that much better than everyone involved.
Yeah.
And that's why I really love that tap out rule, although I'm not surprised people won't use it. But I really love that because, there's no way you should be able to spin out the leader and him lose a spot.
Right.
He should always get a spot back, in my opinion. And even, man, like last year, year before, I don't even remember. When I was running second, I got into Norman. Man, I felt so bad about that.
Yeah.
And I was hoping, because I didn't hit him that hard. We both cars still had all 4 tires. We're all still facing the same direction. And I was really hoping he'd just follow me to the line, and I would have tapped out and gave it to him.
Sure.
But as racers do, we made it to the next turn, and he, wiped me out. And it's like, man, if he'd just gave me a chance, I would have made it right. But that's just not the way people are. They get caught up in the moment. And but I love that tap out rule, and I love it when tracks make calls. I mean, sometimes it goes your way, sometimes it don't.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes it interesting, in my opinion, and it's much more. That's the only thing I hate, the all involved rule. That's my biggest pet peeve of the way racing's gone. It is easier on track because even this year I've watched several times people screaming and yelling at Marianne and other people, and I don't get that at all. I mean, a bad call happens, but
sure,
that's just the way it is. I don't understand why you think that's going to make it better, because they certainly aren't going to change it, and they're certainly not going to, give you a better call next time. So I don't know. I don't
it's the
understand
human
that
part.
mentality
The
anyway.
human part. I think that's something that's good. The human element is good.
Right. Yeah, I've always liked that. I mean, calls. I've had calls go every which way you could ever do, and even we kind of joke about, me and my wife. We've there was an incident that happened to me. I guess I was probably 17, and it was the weirdest deal. Like I had gotten taken out in the heat race, and like you said, you had to go through the B main, so I had to go through the B main. And then in the feature, I come from dead last and was passing the leader, like on the last lap. And the guy behind me, like, never lifted and just drove through me and spun me out on the last turn. Shit. And I went from, a pretty good payday to nothing, because that was a big show.
Yeah.
And so it was pretty obvious. I was running, like, the middle and kind of diving off to the bottom. He just ran on the bottom and just never lifted, went straight through me. And man, we had words. This is a good friend of mine. We had words that night, and we didn't talk for years. And
oh man,
and we've got the video. We've watched that video 1,000 times, and it's clear as day. He just drove straight through me. Well, fast forward 20 years, and we're just watching an old video, and me and Brenda, it's on, and you see this guy. He's running the bottom, and I turn down from the top of the track and drive straight into him.
Oh man!
And I'm like, this is the same video, right? It's like we watched this video 100 times, and every single time it was his fault. And now 20 years later, I can see it was all my fault.
Damn.
And I was like, man. And so that's why I was like, man, after that moment, I was like, I don't care what call they make, because there's no way, it's just, you got to make a call. I don't even know how to say it. We've seen that video so many times. Even Brenda was the same way. We both laughed at it, and we still laugh because, I don't know. Sometimes it doesn't matter, the way you see something is not always the way it really happened.
Exactly. Yeah. Great point. Great story.
Some people call that windshield and bug. I call it statue and toilet, because the way racing works, you're always going to get shit on. It doesn't matter.
Right.
It's
no joke.
Statue or toilet. So let's talk about your buddy Dale Caswell for a little bit before we cut you loose. He's one of our old friends from the Asphalt days back in the day, running them old Novas.
Right.
He's got one now. Talk about your relationship with your buddy Dale.
Dale was, just like any relationship, it's a weird story. I think we went to a swap meet at Kyle one time and met him and just started talking. And so we've pretty much, been friends ever since then. And he's driven for me and I've driven for him. And so he leaves his car here too. And, it's something we always work on. And it's just, Dale's like anybody else. None of us can afford the sport, but he still wants to do it. And so we all just try to make it happen. And he definitely, enjoys it, I think, but it's just like anybody else, you know. I think at this point we don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
Because I never picked up any other sports. I never picked up any other hobbies. So this is all I got. So we're kind of just trapped here. And I mean, he definitely has a good time, I think. But I think it's just this is the only thing that keeps us from staying sane.
That's right. And the main thing is, I mean, lastly, AJ, I mean, you just mentioned your wife. I mean, great lady. Isn't that really what it's all about? I mean, the sport, I mean, for all of us that have done it for so long, I mean, it's all about family. You do this stuff together. You go to the racetrack, you go out, you have fun. It doesn't matter what happens at the end of the night. I mean, if you win, that's great. If you suck, that's great too. It's just all about that family time. That's what this sport just kind of grows itself into us all as we become racing people, over the years.
Oh, I agree. Racing's always been a weird deal, and if it's not both of you wanting it, it's gonna be a bad thing. Like I said, I started going, I guess, when I was 11 or 12, and the one thing I saw all the time was, the wives didn't like it, and it would just cause nothing but problems, and so I had decided, because, as a kid, everything. I decided that I'm not going to date anybody I don't meet at the races.
Yeah.
And so that was my solution. And, just by dumb luck, it did work out. She actually, we went to high school together and never talked one time. And after graduation, a friend of mine invited her to the races, and she went. And it was I guess, a pretty good night. It was me and Vince Loudon.
Oh, man.
And we had been battling all year in street stocks.
Yeah.
And, we got together in the heat race, and it popped one of my tires. And so my crew was accusing him of taking me out. And so we go to the feature, and he gets into it with another one of our friends, and he ends up rolling the entire length of the straightaway. I mean, every part of his car was on the straightaway: the battery, the fuel cell, every part.
Man.
And so, of course, they're accusing us of taking getting that guy to take him out.
Right.
And so, I mean, it was like the most drama you could have in a race night, and that was her first night. And so she has come to the races every single time since then, except for this weekend. Last weekend was the first time she hadn't been at the races, or second time, well, maybe in our 25 years we've been married,
Yeah.
And this weekend she was sick, so she couldn't come. And but so ever since then, she's been coming ever since that one night. But,
yeah. I love it. That's how you hook a man. Drama-filled night, and boom, she's
exactly.
She is all about it.
But it was just dumb luck. I thought I had the perfect solution, but I mean, it worked out good for me. But I think that's just the way most things are, just luck.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's always any kind of weird deal. You talk about it, family and what you're going to do, and that is the best thing, because we have the same goals. So racing has been, I guess, our goal, and I think that's why it's worked for us for so long.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff, man. AJ, you are one of my favorite dudes, man. I got to tell you, dude, I love that as much as the sport has changed, you're just still a regular guy. And that is so fun. And to watch you dart around and travel, and then seeing you at COTA, you guys doing that right there. And you told me you were doing that, hopefully to do some other stuff. I think it's so cool, man. Keep plugging along, man. You do it the right way, dude. Need a hell of a lot more AJ dancers in racing right now.
Yeah. Thank you. It's been a lot of work. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, my friend, we will see you at a track very, very soon, buddy. Keep after it, and good luck, dude. Keep kicking ass.
All right. Yeah, have fun.
All right, man. Take care.
Bye.
You bet. Man, now that right there.
As a racer.
That's a car racer. That is a car racer. That is, man, how sweet is that, man? And I tell you, I do think it's so cool, because I do look and I see them at all these different places, and I'm like, man, look at the open trailer. It's like, man, how cool is that? I mean, that's for all the folks that want to have, millions of dollars and huge goals and all of this. I mean, to put it in perspective, to put what I think what short track racing is all about, I really think that one of the statesmen that we need to look at is AJ Dancer. Just a dude, just a guy.
Just a regular guy that's been racing for a long time and That's the thing. I mean, he's just been racing for a long time, and you know, it's always an interesting take. Some people ask why we get some of these guys on the show. It's because we want to take from everybody. That's what we're looking for. Is we want to know whether or not you've been racing for 5 years, 5 months, 25 years, whatever the case may be, because everybody's got their own unique take, and that's the one thing that we've learned about racing is that everybody's got a take, and most everybody has a good opinion. And despite the fact that sometimes they try to place that on different promoters and stuff like that, their own opinion. But AJ's pretty level-headed now, so that's the way that it's turned out pretty good. But AJ thanks the time spending some time with us on a Monday night talking about racing, so it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go back to the Lone Star Speed Zone hotline. We're talking to a dude that what a fantastic race we saw this past weekend at KRP, and this is a guy, I think every race of his that I've called, I think he's won. The last time I saw him was in Victory Lane over at Heart of Texas Speedway. Super excited to be joined by Jacob Perkle. Jacob, how we doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. How y'all doing?
Doing well, sir. Doing well. Thank you for taking the time. And one of the things I want to talk about before we talk about racing, I think one of the coolest things about you is talk about your regular job, man. Race car driver is one thing, but I mean, remind folks what you do for a living.
Oh, I work for the city of Dallas. I'm a Dallas firefighter paramedic, so that's kind of what helps pay my bills. I've been doing that for about 10 years now.
Yeah, love that. Love that.
So do women like the hose dragger aspect, or do they like the racer aspect in you better?
You probably ask my wife. She probably likes the fire department. It pays the bills. So
yeah, that's right.
She loves the racing too, though. So it all goes hand in hand.
That's right. And speaking of that, speaking of your wife, I think you guys are about to have an addition here coming up. What are we? A couple weeks out? I think it's getting to be about time, isn't it?
Yeah, she's due June 9th, so we'll see. We have a baby girl coming. Hopefully, I can get a few more races in before that comes, and we'll kind of see what happens.
Yeah, for sure.
So talk about how did you go from? Did you race first, or did you firefight first and paramedic stuff? Talk about how you got in this crazy sport.
I started racing motorcycles when I was 10, kind of transitioned into go-karts, just something, with the roll cage, a little safer. And I actually started racing, at the time, I guess it would have been Sims Limited Modifieds when I was 15. I raced that. I think this year makes 18 years that I've been racing. Wow. Most of the time it's been in limiteds. I did a little stint in modifieds, iStocks a few years ago, and I've been racing modifieds full-time this is going on my third year.
Mm-hmm. So Perkle, talk about the limited modifieds. I mean, we were actually just talking to AJ Dancer, a longtime racer. Talk about that class. I mean, it's so funny. We see it going up and down. I mean, it's like it came in. It was the equivalent to a modified, a lesser version of a modified financially, but now we see it starting to fall off a little bit, but yet it's resurging. Talk about those limited modified sport mods, whatever you want to call them.
Well, obviously, everything's getting expensive right
Sure.
now. I mean, food's expensive, parts are expensive, everything's getting high. But I actually dropped down back to limiteds when I started the fire department. It kind of worked out that way, just with my time. Kind of, I was going to fire school, EMT school, and modifieds are a blast. I love it, but they take up a lot of time compared to a limited. Actually, the speeds are pretty comparable, the lap times. Mm-hmm. But being in a modified, it feels like you're going about 40 miles an hour faster. I think the limiteds will be just fine. They're just kind of spread out. You got different sections, changing rules, which I don't think is a good thing for the sport. Mm-hmm. But I think they'll be just fine. It's a good class. I think you'll, you got a lot of good drivers moving up in the last few years that are racing mods now. So I think hopefully everybody keeps kind of moving up in the ranks. You got sport compact guys, factory stock guys. Hopefully you get a little more of those guys kind of move up to sport mods and kind of get their feet wet in that class.
Mm-hmm.
So you're from up in the Metroplex area. Now, there's not quite as many tracks as there used to be just due to regular track attrition and people no longer wanting to race. How cool was it back, a handful of years ago when you had unlimited options on where you wanted to race on a Friday and Saturday night? Now you just got down to a couple with KSP and Boyd are the main ones. But how cool was that back in the day to have that many choices to go racing?
Yeah, I was always a fan of Grand Prairie Speedway. I live in Midlothian. It's 30 minutes south of Dallas. Grand Prairie was one of my favorite tracks. It's kind of pretty comparable to Boyd, real tight bull ring. And then Saturday you had a lot of times I raced Cowtown in the limited, but it was just open sanction. But I could go next door and race Kennedale if I wanted to do that. I mean, because I was always IMCA legal, and I kind of bounced back and forth, just kind of depending on my schedule. But obviously, right now it kind of stinks. We had a terrible car count a few years ago in the mods, and they kind of put us bi-weekly at Kennedale. But it's kind of worked out the way they're kind of switching off with Boyd, switching off with Ardmore, and Heart of Texas is racing weekly. So we try to run the Friday trucks when I can, just with my schedule. It's real tough, especially they start a little bit later, being Friday and getting out of there at 1. And when I do work, I have to get up at 4:30. So that's why I think I've only raced about 8-9 times this year. It's kind of run when I can.
So talk about the stock cars. You mentioned about your time there in stock cars. Obviously, a big difference from a limited modified or a modified. Now we got these factory stocks. I mean, I'd love to know your thoughts. To me, the iStock, the IMCA stock car is really the benchmark right there. But now, as you travel around, you see factory stocks. Man, what that's the next big thing. Apparently, it seems like.
Yeah, we had a blast in the stock car. We had an older car. It took us a little bit to get it going, but we ended up winning a couple features. It was a blast. The only thing that I hated just coming from limiteds and racing mods, always the open wheel car, just the body work on the full body car, I wasn't a fan of. I think a lot of guys that race all the time are used to it, but I just hated the body work on those things, trying to work on them, just working around everything, the fenders and but they were a blast to run. The class is great to watch. I love watching them. I love watching the factory stock guys, but stock car class has been blowing up, and especially, the suspension they're getting underneath those things. Yeah, they're a blast to watch.
Yeah, absolutely.
So before we talk about shocks and suspension, it's on the list of getting stuff to you. Let's talk about, as long as you've been racing, with all the different classes now, what's it take to get this next generation of racers coming in? Is it like an E-mod class or a junior limited class, or is it the go-karts? Is that how we get the next ones in, or are the kids just not interested in cars anymore?
The last thing you allude to, I think kids, we're just going to get a different generation now. And then just with the price to get in it, it was so much cheaper, 18 years ago when we got in. At the time, my dad, was paying for everything. It's still expensive when you're getting into it, but now just the cost of rollers and everything, it's just gotten really high. And it's a little easier, at least if you can get in a class and kind of get a little equity in a program, something to trade in to kind of upgrade eventually. But I think, at least around here, I raced go-karts before that at Cowtown Speedway, and I think they used to run them in Lorena, down south, West Texas. A lot of those, and I don't see it. I know they race them around Denton, some of the tracks, but they just don't have. We're not really breeding the younger guys like we used to. Where they just kind of like, hey, well, the next step is to go to limiteds, is go to bombers. And now I think to jump in, depending on the age, is going to be junior limited. I think Eco's a cool class, but like we talked about earlier, I think the Eco's kind of distracting from the limiteds as well. They're just kind of changing carb, and it's a cool class, with what they're allowing, 3 links and kind of older cars to get in there and compete. But like I said, once again, they're kind of dividing that deal. But I think the biggest thing is just, the kids just aren't there. They're not interested. I grew up falling asleep in the stands, and we still have that, but I don't think like we used to.
Yeah, no, totally agree. So talk about that. Bobby mentioned, I think one of the things that's so important, whether it's dirt or asphalt, and I know that you are a shock guy. talk about the important, man, those shocks. That really is the thing. It used to be back in the day, you could have so much horsepower and you could just hammer down and haul ass and then whatever. But now you got to get these cars to rotate. You got to get these cars to respond. It's all in the shocks, man. That's really where you're going to make a lot of strides on the racetrack.
Yeah, and I think it's, kind of talking to some guys, I think it's been cool kind of being part of it the last, I guess over 3 years I've been doing shocks, just kind of getting thrown to it and learning. And we're going so aggressive and doing different things that, even for years, we ran the Bilsteins off the shelf, the AFCOs, whatever you get. You just ran them. When you felt like it was in a dead spot, you threw them in the trash and got another one, and man, the car came to life. And now it's, it's just a game changer. Even me, I just buy used shocks anytime I see them since I do them myself. But I have a shelf full of shocks. I'm always playing with stuff, finding different stuff, and it's fun. I enjoy doing it. That's why I do it. Obviously, fire department's my income, but I enjoy doing it on the side, and I enjoy helping people. kind of got my own knowledge, 18 years of racing. I like getting those Sunday text messages of guys like, hey man, that worked great.
Love it.
Like I tell them, that's why I do it. I don't, I just, it's cool to help people, and especially with where the shot game's going.
Yeah.
It's such a big part of what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So without giving any speed secrets, you mentioned buying the used ones. So do you buy the used ones so you have a carcass to work with, and then you make them fancy to your own liking, or how does that work for a novice like me?
Yeah, just any. Whether it be a factory stock, shock, a sport mod, a modified, whatever. It's just a core. Once I get through with them, it might be all rusted up, but inside everything's new, got new oil, new, everything's good to go. Just for the price, I sell a lot of used shocks just because I try to help guys around. For the same deal, it's not going to be as pretty, but it's going to be the same shock as one that, if I got a brand new shock sitting out the door.
Hell yeah.
So that's why I always, with the price of, mod shocks where they are, AFCO's over $600 for a good one, Integra's $500. So, I just try to buy anytime I find a good deal, try to get them. And, if I got excess, that's usually what I kind of offload to other guys to help them out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the servant in you right there. I can definitely tell right there. That I can definitely feel that.
That's just coming from a budget racer. Like I said, we're kind of running at a high level, but we just put the money where it needs to go. So just try to save where we can. And
Yep. So talk about the rest of the year for you. Obviously, with the little girl coming, that's going to affect stuff. What all do you have planned? I know that when I saw you in Waco, you won the touring race there for the modifieds. What all do you have planned post baby girl?
Well, a little bit pre. We do plan on running the 5 nights of All-Star shootout at the end of May, and then like I said, the baby's due a week, 10 days after.
Yeah.
Barring it comes early, I plan on racing, but I still plan on. We'll just see how it goes. Me and my wife talking about earlier, so hopefully we have a healthy baby girl and it's all good. But if she needs me at home, I got to be home. I have about a month off for work, so we'll have time to kind of get everything situated. And I race for an older guy that he's retired. He enjoys racing, so I might have to have him step up a little bit.
Yeah, right.
Help me out get it ready, but. I'm hoping I can get away here and there. Kennedy only runs bi-weekly, so that's kind of my game plan to run there, but we'll just kind of see how it goes. And then hopefully towards the end of the year, we'll obviously run, the big shows that we can. We'll see how they line up, Kennedy, Boyd, Waco. You just got to see how my schedule plays out with my barring have a day off. I basically work Friday, Saturday, Sunday every week. Oh, wow. So it's kind of tough to kind of play until I kind of get a little closer to the races. I'd like to travel to one big show. We got Vegas, Batesville, just a lot of those ones that come up towards the end of the year, but we'll just see how it goes. Yeah,
no doubt. Talk about it lastly. Seriously, the modifieds, they are so badass. I love the modifieds. Sprint cars and modifieds. We were just talking about that a while ago. Talk about the beauty of driving one of those things. When you talk about the changes you can make with all of that. To make that car do whatever you want to do. You work the throttle. You've got shocks, whatever it is, man. That has got to be a joy to drive those beauties around these racetracks.
I love racing it. And I was actually thinking yesterday, kind of on my high horse, awesome race with William Gold.
Yeah, for sure.
Still kind of on cloud nine. But
yeah,
I had the first year we had a kind of rough year, just kind of learning it, getting everything in it. And I don't know how many times I heard, "You missed the limited yet? You missed the limited yet?" I was like, "No, this thing's a blast." I'm not getting the results I want, but it's just they're fun. I enjoy doing it. Like I've always said, I've been doing it since I was 15. It's helped keep me out of trouble and not do stupid crap.
Right on.
So it's kind of kept me busy. A lot of Fridays and Saturdays, but the modified is, and that's all I can say. It's a blast. I enjoy racing, especially a track like we had Kennedale. It was you can run wherever you wanted. It was a little tricky track. It was slick. It was tacky. It was rough, and that's when I enjoy the mod. Kind of old school. You got the left front toting, and it's just a blast.
Yeah, and isn't that the best part? You win a modified race, you're beating a Willie G, or you're beating whoever it may be, whether it's a weekly show or a touring race. You win one of those damn races, you're beating the best of the best.
Yeah, and it is great to beat a guy like William Gold. He's beat me a lot of times, more often than not, and he's still probably going to continue to do that. But I plan on being right there with him. We don't stop here. We continue working on our car, trying to get better for these big shows. And that's what I enjoy doing, going out there to race against some of the best. I'd love to race USMTS and those other stuff, but we just don't have the funds to, to put a $20,000 power plant in there and, to keep up with those guys. So I think like we talked about a lot of guys, the crate is, I love the option. I know it scared a lot of guys away, but having a $7,500 motor, the ones that I bought, I know they went up, but shipped to the house and, usually they run really good. I've been pretty blessed with the ones we've had. So, it keeps the cost down.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Great stuff, man. Thanks for taking the time, Jacob. I know you got a lot going on, so I appreciate you checking in. Congratulations on a big win at KRP, man. That was a hell of a race, dude. That was good.
Yes,
continued success, and we'll see you in victory lane very, very soon, my friend.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate you guys.
You got it, man. Take care.
All right. You too.
You bet. There he is, Jacob Perkle. There's a lot of guys that have been like a policeman or a fireman or whatever, and that's always a tricky part for me. It's like, how do they find time to race?
It depends on. I was going to ask him what kind of swing shifts he does. So a lot of times they're 24 on, 48 off.
Yeah, but
so that's what a lot of them are. But the paramedic stuff now is a little different because they stay more on shift than the firefighters do, I think.
Mm-hmm. But he, I know when I saw him in Waco, he, man, the dude, he's just such a smooth, cool driver right there, and I think a lot of that probably is. I mean, to think about being a firefighter, you kind of got to be cool under pressure. It's like something kind of crazy happens on the racetrack. It's not going to rattle you too bad compared to what you're really seeing.
Yeah, compared to your day job, it's definitely a way to get out of there.
Yeah, it's like the racing ain't shit. The racing is nothing. So good stuff right there. And again, AJ, the conversation there with him. I mean, that's a couple of really good dudes to talk to, and that's really is like you were talking about. That's really what what we've always been about. I mean, talking to just the regular guys right there, and even with even with Perkle. I mean, he's a guy that's just feeding that adrenaline rush of being on the racetrack. Man, that is so cool. So big weekend coming up. I mean, there's lots of racing going on, like we talked about. I mean, obviously Heart of Texas Speedway, KRP 105, I-37 with the late model. So get out there and support 37. I mean, I think that's a track right now that needs a little shot. Of course, you'll have Texana, and that's I don't know how do you think that's going to work out? Because there may be some carryover right there. I mean, that's tough having both of those going at the same time.
Yeah, but it'd be different if you're running the race ranch and I-37 together.
Right.
Little further toe, so to speak, and you have a more of a Corpus connection with
that's true.
with Texana than
That's
you do
true.
the I-37 San Antonio bunch. But I think that Texana is the one thing that I've learned about Texana is that Texana's been able to kind of fly on its own. You get a lot of guys out of Victoria and kind of southeastern. Way southeastern Texas, Victoria, and some of the, you got local guys like Cord and Monty that from Edna that have been racing. So you got a good traveling show. The Slot Brothers come down and try to run there for a little bit, and you've got some of the staples of the guys that have been there. The guys that are chasing IMCA points. It'll be interesting to see if 37 is running for IMCA modified points. And so is Texana. Be interesting to see who gets the bigger car count.
Yeah, get like the Chris Morrises and all these guys that want to do that. So, yeah, that will be interesting to see how that all shakes out. And that dollar beer night at Texana Raceway Park. 2 X's and Miller Lights. $1 in cans, my friends. Not a small cup of keg beer.
Dollar beer night. Dollar beer. Dollar
beer. Can beer.
Can beer. There you go.
Can beer like this.
Well, not that brand.
No, not that brand. Not
you
that.
and your new bougie beer.
That's me. I'm fancy now.
Less calories, man. It's only 1 calorie less than Miller Lite.
Less carbs. The carbs are the key.
The carbs.
The carbs are the key. So the doctor said.
Well, I guess got to do what the doctor says.
Pretty damn bad. The doctor's giving you beer advice. Don't stop drinking. Just back off. Back off. Don't eat late night pizzas. Don't eat the whole thing.
That's right.
That's right. That's what he said.
Got to get you one of them easy bake toaster ovens in there.
Yeah. Got to get better. Great program as we talk to AJ Dancer. And we're going to podcast each one of these. We'll have them all broke out. You can catch them at revvedupsportshow.com, revvedupsportshow.tv. A big thanks to all of you for checking in, however you find this. We see some numbers, and then we see the final numbers, and we have no idea how you're finding us. So, however you're finding us, we're glad you're doing it.
Yeah, message us and let us know. What's the email?
Yeah. revvedupsportshow@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Or message on the Facebooks.
Yeah, that works too.
Or on the Instagram. One of the two. As well, big thanks, Jacob Perkle, for checking in. Take your happy ass to a racetrack this weekend. Bobby's going to be at Texana. I'm heading back to Alabama where it's cooler.
A little bit.
Gulf Coast Racing Series, Mobile International Speedway. Going to be a great weekend. You all be well. Happy Mother's Day to all you mothers after the fact. We gone. We're back next Monday. Y'all be good.